Are you still not getting the score you need in the IELTS speaking exam, even though you know the format of the IELTS speaking test? After spending hundreds of hours and years of research, I found 7 best tips that you can apply to improve your IELTS speaking score. Let's start. Tip number 1, pay attention to intonation. The rise and fall of your pitch can highlight important words or phrases in your sentence. For example, saying I went to the movie with a rising tone on movie emphasizes your excitement about the film. Intonation can convey happiness, sadness, anger, or surprise. A flat monotone might make you sound disinterested, while using appropriate intonation can inject life and emotion into your speech. Intonation can sometimes even change the meaning of your words. A question phrased with a rising tone at the end seeks information, while the sentence with a falling tone can become a statement. Let's have a look at examples of using intonation. For stating a fact, the weather today is sunny. Falling intonation. Asking a question, the weather today is sunny? Rising intonation. Emphasizing a point, I went to the movie, not the store. Rising intonation on movie. Expressing surprise, you're learning French? Wow. Rising intonation on wow. So let's talk about how to improve your intonation. The first way I recommend most people is to shadow native speakers. Listen to podcasts or audiobooks and try to mimic their intonation patterns. You can also listen back and identify areas where your intonation could be improved. And if you record yourself speaking, this can be completely an easy step. And you can also experiment with intonation for statements, questions, and exclamations. And the final, but the best one is using online resources. Many websites offer lessons and exercises on improving intonation in English. Let's move on to tip number 2. Don't panic if you don't know. It's perfectly alright to ask for clarification during the IELTS speaking test. In fact, it can demonstrate your communication skills and desire to understand the question fully. Here are some ways to politely ask the examiner to rephrase a question. For a simple request, excuse me, could you please rephrase that question? More specific request, I'm not quite sure what you mean by elaborate on your hobbies. Could you rephrase that question? And the last way you can politely ask the examiner for acknowledge and restating is, if I understand correctly, you're asking about ... Would you like to elaborate on that? By politely asking for clarification, you show the examiner that you're engaged in the conversation and want to provide the best possible answer. It's really important not to panic or feel embarrassed if you don't know or understand something right away. A good examiner will definitely be happy to rephrase the question or provide some context to help you understand. Let's move on to tip number 3. Let's have a look at these 2 examples. Which one do you think is a better response? The answer might surprise you. The second one is much better than the first one, and now I will explain why. My suggestion to you personally is to avoid using idioms in every sentence. In the IELTS speaking test, while using idioms can demonstrate a strong vocabulary and understanding the English culture, avoiding them in every single sentence can actually be more helpful. Here is why. When it comes to clarity and accuracy, you have to focus on being understood. The most important aspect of your speaking test is clear communication. Using idioms incorrectly or in an unnatural way can confuse the examiner and prevent your score to be higher And the second way is through confidence in usage. If you're not 100% sure about the meaning and appropriate context for that idiom, it's better to avoid it. Stick to vocabulary you're comfortable using to ensure clarity and accuracy. Forcing idioms into your speech can sound unnatural and disturb the flow of your conversation. The test assesses your overall vocabulary range, showcasing your ability to use synonyms, descriptive language, and different sentence structures. Demonstrates a strong command of the English language rather than using idioms in every single sentence in your speaking test. Let's move on to tip number 4. Paying attention to the length of your answers in IELTS speaking exam. In part 1, you have to give concise answers and they have to be between 1 and 3 sentences, and these are sufficient here. This can showcase your ability to answer general questions directly. When it comes to part 3 of the IELTS speaking test, here, try for answers around a minute each. This part assesses your ability to discuss complex topics. And you have to offer different perspectives and elaborate on your points. Aiming for a comfortable length can encourage you to speak naturally and connect your ideas with transition words. Excessive long answers can be difficult to follow, and it might stray from the topic. Let's move on to tip number 5. Avoid grammar mistakes. Take practice tests or record yourself and analyze your answers. Are there recurring issues with subject-verb agreement, verb tense usage, or comma placement? Focus on improving these specific areas in grammar section. Don't get stuck in a rut of using simple sentences. Practice using compound and complex sentences to demonstrate your grammatical range and ability to express yourself clearly. I'm gonna be 100% honest with you, simple is often better. Sometimes simpler sentence structures can be more effective in spoken English than overly complex ones that might lead to grammatical errors. Converse with a friend, tutor, or online language partner to practice speaking naturally and achieve feedback on your grammar. This is where our Discord group comes in handy. You can join this group by clicking the first link in the description to find a speaking partner in our IELTS community. Let's move on to tip number 6. This tip is more related to generating ideas. My personal suggestion to you is not just stick to surface level ideas. Think about different aspects of the topic you can discuss. For example, if you have to describe a childhood memory in IELTS speaking, in the surface level would be you went to the beach with your family, but in the deeper level, it would be to describe the sights, sounds, and experience of the beach. How did it make you feel? Did anything special happen? So you have to use the past to your own advantage to generate ideas. It's okay to take a short pause to gather your thoughts. This can show you're processing the questions and formulating a response. You can use phrases like, "That's an interesting question," or "Let me think for a moment." These can't help you to get a high score, but still they can be helpful for generating ideas. Let's move on to tip number 7. Record your answers. Hearing yourself speak can be quite revealing. You might discover which areas you're having trouble with, or you can also discover areas where you excel or like using vivid vocabulary or transitioning smoothly. On the other hand, you might identify your weaknesses like filler words. By listening back, you can assess if you sound robotic or natural, or if your speaking pace is fast or slow or appropriate. Aim for a natural conversation tone, by the way. These tips are just for the IELTS speaking test, but I've got IELTS tips for the listening section. that can hugely improve your IELTS listening score. And you can watch it in this video.